So what I have around me, and other people might join us along the way, but what I've got is I've got a blanket. This is a wool blanket. If you have a yoga bolster, you're fancy at home like that, you could use a yoga bolster. If you've got a blanket handy, I've rolled it up kind of, just roll it like a Swiss roll cake. Just roll it right up. And I'm going to put this under my back crossways so that it goes kind of right under the shoulder blade area. I like to refer to this as the bra strap zone. So if you've got a blanket, you can do that. I have an extra blanket to use under my head because I have a short neck and I need a little extra support. And then I've got some blocks and things like that. I have some little throw pillows. You could get a couple of throw pillows if you have something like that handy. And then we'll start lying down. How does that sound to you guys? Hopefully good. So I'm going to do a butterfly with my legs, and I'm hoping you'll be able to see that. So I'm going to position myself on the blanket. Now, if you prefer, you can go down the length of your spine instead of going crossways. It's a little bit less fish-like, and there's a head support. So you could do it that way. You could also just lay on the floor without the blanket. And then I have the soles of my feet together. I don't know if you guys can see that. I have a tiny living room, and getting room for this is weird. And then I'm going to let my arms rest out to the side. I might have some small furry creatures join me from time to time. Hopefully they won't lick my armpits. We'll see. Can you guys see okay? Okay. I'll take that as a yes. And then just allow yourself to relax and take a deep breath. Whew, let go. We're going to stay here for a couple minutes, just breathing and allowing ourselves to settle in. If you feel any discomfort around the legs or the hip joints or even the low back, one way to do a little modification is to put some support under the legs, whether it's blocks or a little throw pillow. These are fantastic yoga props. I love throw pillows. They can go under the legs as well, like that, pushier. And then allow yourself to check and see if that support works. You can curl your tailbone under and settle in. And take some deep breaths. There might be fun background noise. But I'm leaving. No, that's okay. I'm leaving the video on, so if you have a question, you can ask it. But it'll be fun. We'll have some unusual sounds that we don't usually get when we do yoga. Also, I'm not using any music because I'm not sure what all the rules are with licensing music when you post things to the internet. So if you have some, when you watch this video later, I'm recording it, but you could put on some music, or if you have a little soft music and you want to put that on in the background in your own house later, you could do that. But for now, we're going to go for silence so that we don't get in trouble. Or I don't get in trouble. I don't need to get in trouble. This is a strange thing to do, this recording of a video, you guys. Thanks for joining me in trying it out. So we'll stay for about another, let's say 10 or 12 breaths, just letting our body sink in. I find sometimes that I carry some tension and stress around my eyes and in little muscles in my cheeks and my tongue. And so gently softening those places, if you can hear me. So a few more breaths. I'm going to take one more really big inhale. Let go with a really big ah. I know, right? Then bring the knees together. I'm going to do this for a second. Now, we're going to keep this blanket in place if you have a blanket. If you don't have a blanket, there will be an alternative shape. So, if you have a blanket, then what you're going to do is roll onto your side and position it so that it's under your rib cage in a comfortable place. Now, I'm using my arm as a pillow, but you can put your arm straight out in front and then use a little throw pillow. If for whatever reason you don't have the blanket and so you're not getting this kind of side bend in your spine, you could do this as a cat pulls its tail. And so you would reach down and grab your foot. I need a strap to do that. So I would grab one of those, or something, a rope, a towel, maybe not a cord. But you can put one leg out in front, one leg behind. You could even hold on to that foot with your hand if you wanted to. Give yourself a little extra. So I'm going to just let my arm rest here. You can slide this arm around behind your back. That gives you a little more of a shoulder opener. You could also put this arm over your head if that would feel good. And so we're just going to pause for a bit here. And this is a shorter shape. We'll stay for about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. Just kind of pausing and letting the spine change the shape so that we're in this slight side flexion of the spine. You just kind of find some space in your home for that. And again, as I kind of find myself holding some stress or tension in my shoulder, I might reposition that arm, kind of finding a good place for it. One of the things about yin is that we're trying to remain mostly still, but you don't have to stay completely still. So the object of the game is to create a way of kind of allowing the body to soften and release layers of tension, so that we can get into the kind of connective tissue layers, allow some kind of gentle tractioning around the joints. But that doesn't mean that you should be uncomfortable. So the level of comfort that we're going for, the level of sensation that we're going for is, oh, I feel something. Not, oh, I can almost not stand that anymore. That's way over the edge. The edge is, oh, I feel that. And then if it changes, like my back has softened a little bit. So I'm going to kick this top leg a little further out and scissor my bottom leg around just to create a little bit of a change around my hip. When I first started, that felt too sharp. And so you're looking for that kind of happy place where there's sensation, but not too much and not too little. The shoulder's starting to soften, so I'm kind of finding that I can move my hand behind me a little more. And so we're going to stay for about 5 more breaths. I'm kind of guessing at the time because all of the timing devices that I use are currently being used to video. You guys, I appreciate your willingness to work with me as I recognize the places where I've lost. I'm not doing the best, most professional job. How's that? So we'll take one more big breath. Let go with an ah. Yeah, I'm going to bring this arm back. I'm going to give that arm a little movement. I'm going to bring my knees in. And then I'm going to switch sides. So to do that, I'm just going to move myself. Now before I do this, I don't know if you guys can feel this, but my spine still feels like it's kind of bending in that direction. So I'm just going to take a moment to do a little movement. Hi, yogis. I've been laying there not looking at the camera, so now I get to see you guys. All right, hopefully you'll still be able to see what I'm doing. Or, I don't know if you have been able to see what I'm doing this whole time, actually. I have no idea. So we'll hope for the best. Okay, feeling like it's pretty normal. So I'm going to do this other side. I'm going to try to position this blanket, or even a throw pillow, whatever you got, under your ribs, or under my ribs, maybe. And then I'm going to find the place where it feels like I've got a nice shape going on and it's not too pokey. So sometimes down the bottom ribs, it's very, very sensitive. A little closer to the center of the rib cage for me is a little bit better. And then I'm just allowing myself to kind of find a spot with my legs that feels good. This shoulder's a little tighter than the other one, so I'm going to start with my arm just on my hip. Once you get yourself in place, you can relax. Take some deep breaths. Unwind all those muscles in your face and around your eyes. So I'm starting to feel my shoulder let go a little bit, so I'm going to start to sneak my hand around the back. And you might find that your arm is in a different position, or you can add a little bit more onto your pose. Again, you could reach down and grab that foot in the back. Just letting everything sink in. So the intention behind the poses that we're doing today really is about kind of stress reduction and anxiety reduction, trying to open and release some of the tissue around the shoulders, around the spine, that might get a little stiff or tight because we're holding ourselves with a lot of tension and stress. I don't know if you guys do that or not, but I definitely have been lately. There's, the truth is, life is not ever guaranteed. There's never really anything that's predictable. We get into these habits of thinking that life is predictable because it kind of follows a pattern, but it's not real. Everything can be thrown out of balance at a moment's notice. And so getting accustomed to the notion of being sort of fluid is definitely one of the things I'm working on right now for my own peace of mind, that things might be a wee bit challenging and uncertain, but the certainty that I may have felt prior to this couple of weeks was not real. It was a figment of my imagination, right? There was never any certainty, really. And so I might be grasping or holding on to an illusion rather than a reality. So we're going to stay for about 5 more deep breaths, if that's good with you guys. If you ever feel like you want to come out of a pose and move around, you definitely can. Again, I'm kind of holding these just kind of for however long I think is 2 minutes. But I could be going way over. We'll find out. And I will figure out how to have a timer going forward. So I'm going to take one more big breath. Let go with a big ah. I'm going to move my arm back. I'm going to move my legs back. Give that shoulder a little movement. And then sit myself up when I'm ready. You can take all the time you need to do that. Now, from this pose, we're going to take a few moments to move or just let it settle in. Sometimes it's just fun to sit with a pose and kind of feel where it landed you and how your body is experiencing the pose. I'm going to transfer into a Sphinx, which is a pose where you lay on your belly propped up on your arms like a Sphinx, and then I'll show you a couple of options. I think I can do this sideways. I'm hoping I can. Oh. So, So what I like to do with my elbow is I take it a little bit forward of my shoulder, shoulders back here, elbows up here, and I bring them in a little bit, because that gives me the most relaxed shoulder. For whatever reason, it gets the bones to kind of settle in. If my elbows are too far under me, it feels like my shoulder and my neck want to collapse around each other. And if my elbows are too wide, it feels like I'm going to collapse. So that seems to be the best placement for me. Now, you can experiment for your own purposes. You could do a little crocodile where you just put your elbows, kind of in, cross the arms, rest your chin, and rest your forehead on the floor. And if you want to, you can prop up onto your hands in a seal shape. My back doesn't bend that much. I have a pretty small lumbar curve, and so I don't find a lot of benefit from propping up in the seal for very long. So this one works best for me. And the task for me anyway, and this might be true for you, is I like to carry tension in my glutes. And so I like to just from time to time check in and make sure that I'm not, clenching back there, trying to make a diamond. Just relaxing in the glutes and the legs. Sometimes it feels good to release the hip flexors a little bit more, so kind of do a little windshield wiper with the legs. Pick them up, stretch them back out, and then let them relax again. So that area right there at the front of the hip, softening into the floor, and allowing a little light compression in the low back. We don't want the compression in the low back to be so intense that it's causing tension, especially in the face. Just for those of you that don't know, our parasympathetic nervous system has 3 sets of nerves that go to the facial muscles. So one controls the facial muscles and facial expression. One pair of those nerves controls the eye, and it's like the ability of the eye to change shape so that you can see patterns and depth perception. So those muscles that are at the back of the eye don't control necessarily all of the, or at least these nerves don't control all the movement of the eye, as much as they control kind of the tension and the muscle tone at the eye. And then there's a pair of nerves that in the mouth that control salivation and kind of muscle tone in the mouth. Now, when we are stressed, you might find that all of those muscles are hard or a little bit tight. I like to, a lot of people refer to this as resting bitch face. So, where your face kind of takes on this mask, like you're angry all the time. And that's just tension. It's just stress in those areas where these parasympathetic nerves are not able to relax the body. So when you come to yoga, if you can relax your face and soften the eye so that it feels like the eye itself kind of gets deeper in the socket, and then try to relax all the muscles around the mouth, that actually helps to trigger those nerves to have a relaxation, a parasympathetic response. The last pair of those cranial nerves is called the vagus nerve, and it wanders through the body. And one of the places where it touches in is our larynx, our vocal cords. I saw a story online today of people in a neighborhood howling at each other out of their windows to communicate, which I thought was pretty interesting, because that, again, is that parasympathetic stimulation. You could sing, too, if that was a something you might want to do later. So we'll spend another minute here or so. I'm finally feeling my low back really relax and my glutes really relax into it. A little occasional movement is good. Just allowing the body to sink into a shape. And if it gets uncomfortable in your shoulders, you can go down into one of those other, or up into another position, just to kind of find the right shape for you. Oh. And about 5 more breaths. Harder to breathe when your belly's pressed into the floor. So one of the kind of sub benefits of that is that I can feel the breath in my back a little bit more. So one more big breath and just kind of feeling that low back. And then as you exhale, you can come out of there. I like to do little windshield wipers with my legs and maybe a little pseudo child's pose. You can go into child's pose if that would feel nice. Not everybody is a lover of the child's pose, but this one is kind of nice where you sort of let yourself roll forward a little bit and backward a little bit and give yourself a little movement. Now, from here, there are 3 options of a pose for you. You can do either a lunge, or dragon, as they're called in the yin world, which is to have one leg forward and one leg back, and we're here. You could do a swan. So that one brings the leg across, and the foot can tuck in however far the foot tucks in. It's just wherever your body kind of lands. A great way, if you can't get down so far to the ground, a great way to use your little throw pillow is underneath the hip. So you've got some support. So this is a spicier pose for me. Really the 2 of them are spicy in different ways. And if this one is too spicy, then another option might be to do this one on your back. And so, to do that, you would put one leg over the other, and you can have the ankle, the middle of the shin, or even the knee over top, and you can just rest like that. I've got this little pillow under my head, or you can bring the legs in and hold onto them. So that's another option. And then just pick one of those 3 that works for you. I'm kind of liking that swan right now, so I'm going to go for that. But you can choose one of those. Now, hopefully, we've got a little bit of time left here. I don't know what time it is. But I will work with it. So we're going to hang with this guy for about 3 minutes. Sometimes I hold this one longer, up to 5. I've even held it much longer than that. But for me, there's like little magical time periods. So at the 3-minute mark, there's a kind of somewhere in that range. It's not exactly at the 3-minute mark, but there's a kind of sensation in my body where everything is sort of becomes accepted, right? So there's like holding, especially in these deeper muscles in the hip, holding kind of feels like it's like spicy, pretty spicy. That's kind of spicy. And then at the 3-minute mark, there's this kind of softening. And then it happens again for me later if I hold it longer and go more into the like 5, 6, 7-minute range. There's another one in that little time, like between 5 and 7 minutes, depending on the pose. And so it's, those are things that I've been kind of intrigued by or I'm curious about. But if you're new to this idea of yin, which is definitely a different practice than the flowing styles, you might want to keep it a little shorter, like we're doing tonight. We have a limited time, so I'm trying to allow us to have, some interesting shapes to do and some areas of the body where we often carry stress and tension and that might need a little release for tonight. So kind of noticing if your foot falls asleep, there's a couple of possibilities. Possibility number 1 is there's a nerve in the inner groin, and just pulling a little bit of weight up off your leg can be helpful. Sometimes it's because the sciatic nerve is being pinched a little too hard. The sciatic nerve and the piriformis muscle, which is the muscle you might feel really tugging in the kind of under the glute area on the front leg hip. So if you feel that, it would be a good idea to back off or to choose one of the other poses. You can either even switch at this point. We're about halfway, I think. So you could switch into that other shape. For me, sometimes just picking myself up to a higher shape is nice. And I have to monitor this hip and this sacroiliac joint just to make sure I'm not being too pushy. And then, you know, when you make adjustments, pause and feel. I like the higher shape, but I like being down a little lower on my elbows. I'm going to make a modification. So we're going to stay for another minute. It's about 10 breaths. I don't expect you to count them. I'll try. And so check in and see, like, as we kind of hang for this little last minute, does it feel like it gets a little softer, a little better? Or does it feel like your body kind of like it's pushing you up onto a bed of nails? Because that is the way to know how long to stay. If it feels like you're being invited into the pose, that I think is a good indicator that it's the appropriate. And again, it doesn't have to be perfectly static, and it doesn't have to be super spicy. It can be just like, oh yeah, I just barely feel that. So we're going to take 2 more big breaths. We go with a big ah. And we're going to lean into the hip or back off if you're doing the lunge, or to unwind if you're doing the one on your back. Ooh, and then pause for a moment, because this is the point where I'm going to know whether this was good medicine or not. So when I am now I'm sitting with my legs relatively even, and the leg I've just done feels really soft and very light, and I get kind of this overall sense of just it's a very peaceful feeling. When I come out of a pose and it feels cranky or tender, or like I've got lots of pins and needles or anything like that, then I know I was being too pushy. I was going too far over the edge. So we're going to do the other side, and normally I would take a little bit longer in between poses to do a little bit more movement. But again, we have a relatively limited time for tonight. So if you guys are up for it, we're going to do the other side. I'm just going to turn around and do this other hip. So again, you'll choose either your lunge or the one on your back if you're doing that one, or your swan pose if you're doing that one, and decide. So one of my hips is a little bit easier than the other hip. It just feels, it doesn't, it's not a spicy feeling. Like I don't get sensation as much, and it takes a little longer. So, but I'm not seeking things. One of the things about yin is that we're allowing things, not seeking. And so one of the key aspects of the practice is to really sort of allow yourself to sink in, right? Allow yourself to be present in your shape. And don't necessarily go after sensation. If you don't feel anything, it's okay. Just keep breathing and being present. There's a little message on my screen. It's possible that got frozen. I can still hear some of you in the background. So it's possible. Huh? Can you guys hear me? Is the video frozen?
No.
Okay, cool.
No.
We might be at that half an hour mark. So we're going to do this pose, and then you guys can do Shavasana after this. So we'll stay a little while. I'll see how long it lets me still chat with you guys. And then I'll try, because my camera on my phone is still recording, So I will try to post the whole thing on YouTube if it will let me upload it in the wee hours of the morning. I've had trouble getting anything longer than a 7-minute video uploaded. And so you just adjust your shape as you feel like it's appropriate. So one of the things that's interesting about Zoom is we're supposed to be able to do a 40-minute video, but that's not one of the menu items that you can choose when you drop down the menu. You can choose 30 minutes. So it's possible that it's letting us go to that 40-minute mark before it cuts me off.
All of my other friends that are using Zoom said that they've lifted that because of all of the Zoom slow access.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that use Zoom, they said on the free Zoom,
Yeah.
you can time limit anymore.
Well,
So,
that's exciting. That's not what it says on the... I'm sorry, that's not what it says on the menu, but if it lets us keep going, that would be awesome.
the message on my screen said this meeting no longer has a 30-minute time limit.
Oh!
The same. I saw the same.
Oh, good! Yay! We'll stay together as long as we can, yogis, or until you guys need to go to bed, whichever way that goes. We got about a minute left by my calculation, which is completely intuitive and probably not accurate. It's so nice to hear your voices in the background there. So we're going to take 2 more big breaths. And then, you can let yourself roll out of your shape. And take a moment, and see how it went for that side. And again, so for me, the most important point almost in any yin class is the moment I come out of a pose and just pausing and feeling how that pose landed you, how landed me, landed us. So are you guys up for one more pose if it lets us keep going? Okay, so you can choose, we're going to do a forward bend because we haven't done that yet. So you can choose either the legs close together or wide apart, or you can come back to that butterfly shape with a kind of nice big diamond. You can bring your feet in closer if you want to, but kind of allow yourself to fold. Does that sound okay? So you could put your blanket underneath your hip, put a pillow under each knee, whatever goodies you happen to have nearby. I'm going to take my blanket and put it under the knees. I have a tendency to hyperextend my knees, and so this just gives me a little bit of softness at the knee joint, which feels better. And then I'm going to build a yoga fort and lean into it. Can you see that okay? Now, I love forward bends for going inward. So sometimes I'll put something like, if I've got a block or something where I can rest my forehead on something, that feels really nice. And if I don't have a block, I just use my hands, kind of let myself rest into my palms. There's something really lovely about allowing the forehead to rest on an object if it's available. It might not be. And I also like to start this pose with just a little kind of rocking motion from time to time. Allow my sit bones to gently kind of ease their way out from under me. Some of you might be able to just lie down onto the floor and rest your forehead on the ground, which would be lovely. I think it would be lovely anyway. It sounds like a good idea. So if you guys are okay with this shape, we're going to stay for about another minute. Again, if it's not right for you, you can come out and use that minute to move. And do some cats or some, little seated movements in your body. And so we'll take 2 more big breaths. Let go with a big ah. And then come up. Oh. All right, yogis, so the last thing we're going to do tonight is Shavasana, and we'll get started, and then I will let you do this on your own. So I'm going to kind of jiggle my way down so I can lay back. Now, I've got that one blanket under my legs. I've got a blanket under my head. I'm snuggling my shoulders under. And this feels pretty good to me. A little bit of a softness under the hip flexors, but if it feels better for you just to lay down without any props, that works well. Sometimes I'll get, build like a little yoga fort, a pillow fort, and lay down over the yoga pillow fort. So there's a little more height to this. So you can do any of those. And then just let yourself stay as long as you can. It might turn into a nap if you stay too long. But allow your body to relax. Now, yogis, thank you so much for joining me on this little experiment.